Hey, Colin.
Yeah, Anthony. I think we're gonna have technological challenges.
Yep, because we're the only two here.
Well, let me see if Quincy can get in. Um, there's something saying you have to have a commercial license to get in. I don't know what Keisha, how it got set up.
Um, Nobody's emailed yet. Um, I didn't have trouble getting in.
No, I know it's because you logged in under the Durham Opening Doors email address.
Yep.
When I went in, I had to use an email and a password to log in, and
Hmm.
I have an account. So,
Let me look at how it's set up. Um, Recurring meeting, attendees need to register, passcode, waiting room. Require authentication to join should not be checked. So
yeah,
I'm
turn
going
that
to
off.
uncheck it and save it.
Yeah,
And that should allow people to, I did it for this and future meetings.
yeah.
So that
Thank you.
should allow people to start coming in, I hope.
You know what, you gotta do something because the registration also says pick which meeting you want to register for. There should be a way that you like pick only one meeting to register. Like used to be able to register for all of the meetings and get all the meetings, like you'd be pre-registered for the year.
Yeah, Sharita's joining us too, so that's a good sign.
Cool. But I think Sharita also has a Duke Zoom account.
Hmm.
Hey
Good morning,
Sharita.
Sharita.
Hi. It
Did
was
you make
weird today. Did you change security on the Zoom?
that's
I
what we were
just
just talking
undid it.
about. I
Yeah.
think Keisha set it all up and we're not sure how the setting, so we just made some changes to it to make sure people could get in because I kind of figured that you would be able to get in. Did you have to use your Zoom email and
It
password?
made me log in. Yeah. It made me
Yeah,
like log into my Zoom account in order to open it.
yeah.
Sharita, would you do me a favor and leave the meeting and come back and see if it does it again?
Okay.
I can leave too and try it. You want me to?
Yeah, please. How to do this time, Sharita? If you can hear me, you're muted.
Um, it didn't make me sign in that time, but I think once I sign in the first time, it's not gonna prompt me. Now,
Yeah,
if I
we've
log
got
off for the
everybody
day
coming
and
in
do it
now.
another day, it might ask me to do all of that again.
Yeah, I think we've got everybody coming in now, so hopefully that's a good sign. Hi, Eliza. Yeah.
Zoom had an update, so it was giving me some issues.
Did it make you log into Zoom to get in here, Eliza?
It did today. It does that to me, I think whenever there are updates, but I log in through like the Duke portal.
Okay.
So that may be different than other people.
Well, I mean, all of my stuff goes to my calendar, which is the Duke platform, and I just click on the link. But today it wouldn't just open it up. It made me sign in, and it sent security to open to my cell phone that I had to
Oh
say
my
yes,
God.
it's okay to open up on the screen.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
everybody.
No, that was the same for me. I think that's a Duke thing, and whenever they
No.
update, no?
No,
Mm-mm.
because yesterday I had 3 Zooms and I didn't have to do that,
It
not one
was
time.
Oh.
It's
it
there's
was
a
it was
setting
a
in
setting
our
thing that
setup
we
that
noticed.
says require authentication in Zoom. That was checked, that should not have been checked. So I unchecked it for future meetings and this meeting. And that's when everybody came in, so I was like, okay, good. Good morning,
Got
Russ
it.
and Quincy, how are you all?
Good, good. Glad it's Friday.
Yes, indeed.
Quincy, did you have to do a login or were you okay?
No, I didn't have to log in. Just
Excellent.
like I'd forgotten to register for the meeting in advance, but I just did that and then it was fine.
Cool.
And I know Ebony had told me she's out today. It looked like from Jonathan's away message, he may also be out. So is
Yeah,
everybody then?
I think that's it then. It would be
Oh.
you and the,
Sally is
Sure.
trying to get in, but I think she's having a problem.
cool, Sally.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
because the link on city clerk's page is the wrong link, I think. I don't know what happened between the link that
Can
Keisha
you
sent to
send
the
her a
city
link?
clerk, huh?
Can you send her a link?
I'm sending it right now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I I thought the links were all the same because I tested the links before they went to the city clerk's office to be posted publicly and they worked. So there's something happened that the link that now the city clerk's office has doesn't allow you to register. It says, oops, something went wrong. That page doesn't exist. So I don't know.
Sarita, I did email Sally, an invitation to join, so she'll have to register at whatever that link is and then come in, hopefully.
All right. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We won't get too far. Hopefully,
Mhm.
Sally will be in by then. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a good July. Can't believe it's already August. It is 10:04 for Russ's note taking. And I sent the agenda maybe like a week and a half ago. And just want to circle back, and I think it might be good for us to drop the last item, the governance charter changes, particularly because Ebony is not here. And I know I haven't had a ton of time to offer any updates. And when I touched base with Quincy, it sounded like Quincy and Colin were focusing on some other items as well. So just between those two things, I think it makes sense to move that to the next exec, if that's what Ebony would like to chat and work on or talk about. And then I'm happy to continue conversations in the governance ad hoc and report to exec. I've not really moved that forward because there are other things on my plate, but hoping to do that soon. So welcome. Next on our agenda is the approval of the June executive minutes. And Russ sent those out on Wednesday. So if you take a look at those now.
I think the only thing that I saw was was it item 6 where you talked about early childhood something? I don't know what that is. It just didn't finish, it just stopped. Is that a task force, a work group?
That was a deletion that didn't happen. I'll fix it.
That was the only thing I saw that was odd.
Okay.
Otherwise, it looked fine.
Half of it, the whole of it. I've got it. Thanks for catching that.
Okay. Anything else? Any other edits from folks? Welcome, Sally. Glad you made it. All right, well, I'll put a motion on the floor to approve the June exec minutes.
I move that we accept the June exec minutes with the one edit that Russ needs to make.
Can I
I
have a
approve.
second?
So it's not enough of us, right?
Only three of us.
Okay, a second from Russ. Please vote in the chat. Great. Our June executive minutes are approved. Thanks, everybody. All right, now we're gonna plan our August exec meeting. So I will pass it over to Colin and we'll have a group discussion about our August meeting.
I think the big thing we have to talk about is elections and make sure we've got a slate of officers.
So is it better to do the leadership updates first?
Yeah, I mean yeah, depending on where we are on that, because that's a big piece of the August meeting is making sure we've got the votes, or not the votes, get a slate of officers in place. So let's sort of talk through where are we with that. And I will share that, Russ, I'm very sorry, please don't be mad. But I think I talked to you about it a little bit, that we at Community Development will take sort of like recording responsibilities of drafting notes for secretaries. And then work with secretaries like other boards to sort of finalize, double check, sort of be quality control, and then and then secretaries will present. Anthony's figured out a template that we can use, and secretaries and subcommittees can use, but at least for the HSAC and executive committee, CDD will take the lead on drafting those minutes. Figured it would sort of help us keep things moving and take something off of folks who have full-time jobs other than being HSAC secretaries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a terrific idea. That is great. And I mean, if nothing else, if you all took care of the attendance and who people really were, and when people are swapping out proxies, that would be mid-meeting, it feels like at times. If somebody would just track that, that's the attendance is more than half the work. So yeah, there's ways to streamline. That's great.
Awesome. So I don't really have any updates in terms of leadership. I had met with Colleen, and then Colin, I'm not sure the ball was in your court to follow up.
I need to follow up with, I think I need to follow up with Colleen
Okay.
for secretary. And then do we have anybody for vice chair? I thought you were having a meeting with somebody last you and I spoke.
Yeah, I had a meeting with Renee Vaughn, and it seemed like she was going to reach out to somebody, but I wasn't CC'd on anything.
I haven't seen or heard anything. So do you want me?
We're talking about Renee Vaughn, right?
Yeah, about vice
She
chair.
said she was working on a project this week, and she's one of the reviewers for the NCSG. She's turning in her stuff today. And so she may have just been out of pocket because she was doing something else for the past week or two. So hopefully she'll be back.
Yeah. I can't remember if I put us on an email together. I know I did that with Colleen, but I met with Renee and she seemed interested, and I encouraged her if she wanted to reach out to Ebony and then also to let you all know at CDE. So I can send an email over to check in. Does anybody else have updates?
Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't have any emails from Renee other than just about scoring stuff.
Yeah, it may be exactly what Anthony said. I know like that's the case for me in the governance stuff, is I just had to prioritize the ESG stuff. So what that leaves is the chair position of performance management.
Yeah. But performance management chair has been appointed by the executive committee historically. So, and
But I think typically the I think typically don't we do it in the meeting though, and then send in our subcommittee meeting, and then we send that information from subcommittee to executive.
I think that's the way we've been doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't necessarily have anybody for performance management yet. I think there's some discussions happening, but no formal commitment. And in absence of a chair, currently our governance documents don't allow us to. Well, if we have a secretary, the secretary can call meetings to order. That was one of the reasons the secretary got added, was because at one point, the only person who could call the meeting to order was the chair. And if the chair was out, we had a problem. So then we changed the governance to allow secretaries to call the meeting to order. And then if both are out, we, I guess technically don't have a way to call the meeting to order other than community development staff as sort of hold meetings
So,
together.
so Jonathan is done, like he's not doing the next meeting. He's not gonna lead the next meeting for
He's,
performance management.
yeah, he's off and out of town, but he's Tracy Stone Dino has agreed to fill in to chair the meeting for at least for August. So we've got a temporary chair for August to facilitate the meeting. And the question is, what do we do after August?
So should we send our communication out to the entire HSAC saying that we have this opening and we need, folks to consider filling that chair position for performance management?
Well, Anthony and I were just talking about it a little bit this morning, and there is Nick is on there's some new members coming on, so we could talk to them about stepping into that role, which is a big ask, but typically sending out an email to the entire group sort of doesn't do much. We do better with a targeted approach. So I think Anthony and I can work together and sort of go through the performance management list and talk to folks. And Tracy has done it before. The question is, would she want to continue doing it, or what are our options? I think Anthony and I can kind of work together to do that. If there's anybody who if you know somebody who's on that committee you think would be good and want to reach out to them and encourage or share it with us, we're happy to work and have other people reach out as well.
I know Jonathan was doing some of that for the last couple months. So it may be good just to understand where he got and who he talked to.
Yeah, my recollection is he didn't get any hard no's, but he also didn't get any hard yeses. He got a let me think about it. And he may be out of the country right now. If I remember correctly, he was taking a pretty big international trip. So
Colin, I have a quick question.
yes, ma'am.
What does for everybody, I'm sorry, this is Nova. Ms. McCullers mentioned going out to the entire HSAC just to poll, and you said a targeted approach. So would that mean the two of you will break the entire HSAC out and make those, or?
We're talking about the performance management committee. So we'd be looking at members starting with the current members of the performance management committee. And historically, whenever because we've made announcements, hey, we're looking for folks to lead the HSAC to move into leadership roles. When we send out those blanket approaches, very few people respond back, oh yeah, sure, sign me up. We tend to do better and get a better response when we go out and say, hey, Russ, would you be willing to run for secretary or do things like that? And I know that Jonathan did reach out to folks in the committee, but there's some new committee members that he has not reached out to that are just joining. That's kind of what I'm suggesting as we talk to some of these new committee members. See if we can just try it. Otherwise, we'll have to kind of figure out another solution, and I don't have one off the top of my head.
I think that we should consider both options. Because even if you're gonna go to brand spanking new people, then why not just go to the whole HSAC? Just
Well-
as a reminder that there's this expectation that you give more, commit to doing something beyond just the monthly meeting. And then still do your targeted approach.
Yeah.
You feel like that'll discourage some folks?
No, I think we ask people to join performance. We always ask HSAC members at just about every meeting to join the committees. So we'll keep doing it. We'll keep asking, we'll keep sending out. It's just a matter of getting, but you got to keep in mind, a lot of our HSAC, not a lot of our HSAC members, but I was looking at it with Keisha, and several of our, 6 out of the 29 are basically either elected officials or city county manager type folks. That kind of takes them off the table for those types of roles, just due to time and for it. So we
Can
start,
we ask them to
we're not-
appoint some other people who actually have some time?
maybe, and they've got to have an interest and want to be on another committee.
Well, I
And
mean,
this
just
is sort of
because some of the
one of the
people that are
reasons-
sitting on the committee now, because they're sitting on the committee, doesn't necessarily mean they have an interest. They're
Right.
just there.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you other than we'll keep doing what we're doing and see what our options are. And I'm sure we'll find somebody. We always do. It's just a matter of timing and when, but we'll figure it out. We'll send out to the full HSAC and try and keep recruiting people. But this is part of the reason we are going back to making those changes to the governance document, in hopes that we can change the structure of the committees, that it's not all HSAC members, or 2/3 of the committee has to be HSAC, which potentially could allow us to have an easier time finding chairs and other folks to help make the committees more robust and be able to, be able to do a little bit more things if we're able to structure them differently. But that's not for this meeting.
Yeah, I affirm expanding it, but I just a reminder that it is going to probably take more than this pieces that are being discussed, because
Oh, yeah.
no, what I'm going to say is adding more people that aren't HSAC members isn't going to address the fact that an HSAC member has to be the chair. So we may still be, without some substantive structural changes beyond the governance piece, we're likely going to stay in this stuck place, unfortunately. I don't mean to be discouraging, but yes,
No.
let's get more people on there. But it may not
Well,
address this.
But if we're able to change the structure of the HSAC, where your anyway, that's a whole other can of worms. We're not gonna go down that rabbit hole today.
So for leadership updates, the updates are that there's some folks being considered, or that have started some conversations and may be interested, those being Colleen, Hubert, and Renee Vaughn.
Mhm.
And that there's still some searching that needs to be done for performance management. So the follow-up items that need to be completed to solidify knowing around Colleen and Renee are, Colin, I believe I put you on an email with Colleen, so if you can follow up with her, and the piece that she was
Mhm.
interested in was the
Minutes.
minutes, right? And hopefully she hasn't changed her mind, because I sent that
I will-
email a bit ago. So if you could do that sooner rather than later, that'd be
Yep, I
helpful.
will do that. I'm making myself a note right now.
And then I just followed up with Renee, checking in. I think it could potentially also be helpful if I don't hear from her in the next week.
Mhm.
If you would follow up, Colin, and as soon as I
Mhm.
hear from her, I can send that over. And then it sounds like we have some plan to reach out to folks for performance. So I heard a couple ideas. So what are we landing on?
I think we will try and figure out where where Jonathan left off on things and reach out to, you know, the new folks, and we'll make an announcement at the HSAC meeting. And that's basically what I think that's our option
Okay.
at this point for performance management.
Okay, and I know that I've made that announcement at a previous HSAC meeting, and I know that Jonathan has brought that up in performance management. I'm currently on performance management, but I am taking myself off to be able to focus on this governance stuff. I'm not gonna be able to do both. But it shouldn't mess with the numbers because there are new folks coming on in terms of our COC members that are a part of that because of ratios. All right. Okay, so sounds like we have some clear next steps on the leadership piece and some items that hopefully will get resolved by our meeting in August.
Yep.
Great, so shall we switch back to our August agenda?
Yep, we can do that. I'll pull up the agenda in a second. All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we got election of officers. I think we are committee, performance management. So I think it's policy and planning.
That's
Is
correct.
that us? All right. So policy and planning update, election of officers. We have to approve the state ESG application. Some approval. I'm gonna try and get our coordinated entry evaluation done. That we sort of have to do an annual report on coordinated entry, which is that statistical report of showing who came in, who went out, and break out some of the highlights, which is going to be a little bit trickier this year because of some of the demographic reporting in HMIS has changed. Where there used to be sort of like a multiracial group, and now there are like, I don't know, something 34, 38 different race ethnicity mixes and matches. So you can be where a lot of people would be lumped previously as, you know, more than one race or mixed race or whatever the term was. It's now you can select I'm Black / African American / white / Latin. I'm Asian / Latin / white. So it breaks down really into small details, and it gets a little bit more complicated when historically all of our reports have been broken down into bigger categories. So it's going to make it hard to compare apples to apples because we'll have a slide that'll have a lot of different racial breakdowns where there might be small groups of 2 or 3 or 4 in certain racial categories. You want to put, Sharita, talk to me a little bit about what you want to do with Grants Pass.
So I don't know if we should have just some brief discussion or information sharing about the Supreme Court's decision on Grants Pass, and also, you know, the decision in general. But I know that, and Russ, you could probably speak to this too, because I know street outreach is getting hit. We do have some camping areas that folks are having to do mass exoduses from. And so maybe us just kind of bringing that as like a reality check-in for Durham and where we are in light of things. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? But I think that we should make sure that the entire continuum, or at least the governing board, understands that this decision happened and that we don't know like what that will mean, because local communities get to decide what they're going to do. But I think if folks are not getting that information, it would be important for them to have it.
I mean, I guess just since we work with a street outreach, I can see it being a helpful discussion at some point. I think it would be healthy for us to think through how we present it, because like the one big clearance piece that just happened was a property that has been sitting vacant for a long time, and now it's being developed. That's why the clearance had to happen. So
The one over by Walmart?
that's the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because there was also a clear out at one of our parks that I'm trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah. So I mean, I think having a conversation that's healthy may take some preparation, because otherwise we can get into, I just would hate for us to go into alarmist mode really fast. There's been some really good pieces out of some of the other cities. There was a good thing with the mayor of San Francisco the other day being interviewed and kind of talking about some of the reality on the ground of what they're experiencing. So I'd want us to be thoughtful about how we talked about it.
I agree, but at the same time, I don't want us to wait too long because we don't know, when the hammer's going to come down and some overarching decision could be made that would further escalate the need for street outreach to respond and get people moved, or the HEART team to respond and get people moved. And I'm not necessarily saying a whole discussion, but I think putting it on folks' radar, even if we say, you may want to take some time just to look at it in general, and then hopefully soon, Russ, maybe some discussions about the clearing, because it's not over. Like, I see land popping up every day that I know where tents are that are going up for sale. And so what does that mean for us in light of also this huge piece, the kind of decision being made nationally? It could trickle down. Our hope is that it's not, because of our community and we feel like we're progressive, but I feel like we should have a conversation of some sort sooner than later. That's just my only thought.
If there's some opportunity to context it, I guess I'm wondering, like, it could be better to offer some like resources, like a one-pager background, or here's some articles to understand what's happening.
So
Wondering.
the National Council has put out a lot of that information, including some toolkits, and I think I've shared some of that stuff with Colin in the days shortly after the decision, and actually prior to the decision finally coming out, that I'm more than willing to share. And maybe that it's just that simple of us just sending that information out in the communication.
Could we utilize our committee structure and have an open conversation around it in planning and policy? I mean, that would be the remit. If part of what I hear you raising is an awareness, but also potential policy concerns in the future. And that something could be formulated there. And if you want to invite some extras of us that aren't normally there, happy to come and join that conversation.
So I think the plan in my mind was that it was policy and planning, but I just also feel like it's so important for folks that don't do the work every day to know what's happening. Because I know it, because I know what's happening, and I do the work every day. So for me, it's different, but for our elected officials, they may or not, or our people who are sitting in like higher up management, far away from homelessness, this is not their reality. So, yes, we can bring it up in policy and planning. Thank you for
I'm happy to
even
come.
considering it.
Yeah, we've been monitoring it closely. So
I do want to flag two things. One, the bulk of the encampments that are coming in and getting complaints are not on city or county owned property. So Grants Pass does not impact the bulk of these. The bulk of the complaints that are coming in right now are on private property. And that's a whole other animal. That's a whole different beast, where you've got private property owners who don't care if people are camping. And from my understanding, from a city code perspective, people are allowed to camp on private property if the owner doesn't have a problem with it. It only becomes a problem if trash is piling up and there becomes a code enforcement issue. At that point, the owner of the property is notified of a code enforcement issue and has 10 days to rectify the situation. The owner can then either A, have the people who are camping on their private property clean up the property. In exchange for keeping the property clean, they can camp there as long as the owner is fine with it. It only triggers a problem if the owner starts turning it into a paid campsite. If the owner is collecting money from the tents or campers on the property, it creates a zoning change and a different code issue. So the other piece is we need to go back, and it's been on my list of things to do, is we have to go back and redo our encampment response policy, which will include how do we handle private property encampments, city, county encampments, and how does the HEART team and Unsheltered Coordinating Agency partner and tag team these things? So there's a lot of layers to this. And like I said, the bulk of the encampments that are coming through complaint wise are on the private properties that really the city and county really have no jurisdiction over doing unless there's a lot of trash piling up. And then neighbors have to work with their neighbors to figure out how to deal with it. Obviously, we've been telling folks that, if there's drugs, prostitution, if there's illegal activity happening, then clearly police need to be called. If you feel unsafe because of violence and drugs and other things happening, then that's a law enforcement issue. That's not a homeless encampment response issue.
So maybe from our conversation, it sounds like it might be helpful to have some information about the grants past decision shared with full HSAC at some point soon, but that maybe we should move the grants past decision conversation to the future as a future item for HSAC. And then there might be a possibility to share some resources in the next month while performance management policy and planning is having a conversation.
Elijah, do you mind if I ask those of you that are collecting information related to the decision, if you send it to our office, would you mind copying me and I'll put it in one particular place just as a collection of all the resources available? Sharita, you mentioned the toolkit and some other stuff. And Rush, you mentioned stuff. So if there's a way for us to collectively save that in a particular location, as kind of the latest available, we'll always have it here to share.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Anthony.
Anything else that we want to go over on the August agenda?
Helen, is there a need to talk about the COC competition?
Yeah, we should talk about that. Thank you, Anthony, because that just got released.
Yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yeah, on the 31st, that the COC NOFO, and we got to make sure that we've got people applying for the $302,000 that's being reallocated with a prioritization for permanent supportive housing. So NOFO. So we should have a timeline drafted out by then that we can share. Sure. Apply for that 302,000 reallocated funds is guaranteed to the community, as well as COC bonus and COC DV bonus if they're available. Good call. Thank you, Anthony. Other items?
Do we need to put in there, I guess the transition from me to Ebony is just a part of the election of officers,
Yeah, I'll put it on here just so we don't forget.
because that's not really an election, right? It's just a transition.
Yeah, you would hand it off after the election. Because you'll have to call the meeting
Right.
order, hold the election, and then you can hand off and let Ebony finish the meeting if she wants.
And I assume the new secretary does the minutes for the next meeting, or do I do those?
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
How about that?
wanna-
And then we'll work with Colleen to, or whoever's elected as secretary to do it.
Do we need to put, I guess this is just the stuff that's always in there is like the minutes. Approving the minutes. And then I think it would just be helpful to understand where we're at with time.
This is about 5 minutes. Whoops. Election of officers, it's probably 15. Anthony, how long, I mean, to go over the state application, 20? To walk through what it is, what the plans are. And election 15, 20 minutes. You're muted.
Sorry, I can probably get it done sooner, but let's allow for it. You could put 15.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Coordinated entry evaluation, I forget what that took. I think that's like, it's probably 20 to 30. By the time you get through questions and stuff, does anybody remember? And then NOFO timeline, we'll put 15, just to walk through it and answer any questions that may come up. Because it's probably 5 to 8 minutes worth of material to present and probably a few questions. That's probably a pretty decent meeting. Some of these may go longer. And if not, we end early, but I'm never going to say we're going to end early because every time I do, we end up going late.
That looks good to me. It's hard to remember like how long we needed last time we talked about this stuff. So as you said that, I was thinking, I know at one point we had made a calendar of reoccurring things that come up. And it made me think like it could be helpful to put in there about how much time not what we allocated, but what we used.
Oh, I don't know if we've ever kept it that, I don't know if we've ever kept how much time.
Yeah, I understand. But like if there are big items, especially things we've learned in terms of like, we really should have had double the time, it'd be nice to capture that for the next year. I just don't know how else we would capture that in a place where it would be in one spot. And I'm just thinking that calendar. So
Okay.
something potentially to think about.
Is there any value in putting the COC piece earlier, just because there are a couple big changes this year, including it's a 2-year cycle, and I think the rankings piece is changing. I'm just thinking that may raise more questions.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
to make sure we don't run out of
I'm not
time.
married to any order particularly, so we can, I was just kind of trying to brain dump it and we can put
Oh, you're
whatever
fine.
order.
That just crossed my mind because it's so different and it's got 2-year implications, not one.
Good call.
And you got to find some takers on the 300.
Well, we're gonna be making phone calls and sending emails now on that. So that's part of our job here. And we'll put coordinated entry evaluation can go towards the end. So this may be closer. So you're thinking this could be closer to a 30-minute discussion, Russ?
Oh, I mean, I was thinking probably 20. I'm just guessing. It depends how much. I mean, people do get weird about asking too many questions in the middle with everybody sitting there. But I just
Sure.
know there's more changes. If there's, I think 3 or 4 big pieces was what NAEH said that have changed.
Colin, just as a note, where we are right now on time is a full hour and a half.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's other things to add or if things will need to be tweaked, but this agenda as it stands. I have the transition of the chair as part of the election of officers discussion or whatever,
Yep.
so I didn't add more time for that, but we're at an hour and a half right now.
And we can always bump coordinated entry evaluation if the COC NOFO goes long.
Okay,
There's no magic piece of coordinated entry evaluation getting done in August. It's just kind of a year in review since the fiscal year just ended, June 30th. Just want to make sure we don't go too far out, and we don't necessarily want to be doing it in December, but it could get bumped to September. And it may have to get bumped depending on some other high priority things that are on my plate. Because the city is city is in the process of applying for an eviction protection grant. Which in theory will help landlords avoid having to file evictions and be able to intervene further upstream. So we're working on putting together partnerships to sort of do that, to avoid fewer people ending up in court with eviction issues. I don't know if we want to talk about that at all, but that's just kind of a working our way through that application process. It's due August 20th. And there may be a request from the HSAC for a letter of support for that.
So if it's due August 20th and there may be a request for a letter of support, isn't that something we should talk about today as?
Yeah, sorry, I was just thinking about it because
Okay.
we've talked so this is the city manager's office is sort of taking the lead on writing it, and I'm sort of partner of this, of pulling things together. And the letter of support would be drafted and the chair would sign it. Essentially the goal of this would be, hopefully we will use systems that are already in place, i.e. coordinated entry would serve as an entry place and have some additional staff to provide supportive services to folks who may need supportive services to remain in housing. And we would partner with DSS, ideally, where we're able to sort of work with them on their one-time rent assistance, partner with landlord engagement on the marketing side. And then we've got another group who would do mediation to avoid litigation. So it's still, a lot of it is, I don't want to say up in the air, a lot of it is still being formalized and finalized and trying to figure out MOUs and getting things in place. And one of the requirements is having letters of support, but the letters of support, it's nebulous. It looks like they want letters of support in general or letters of support from partner agencies. So you're also required to have MOUs in place with partner agencies. So we were kind of thinking, well, HSAC would be a great place to get, a letter of support in favor of an eviction protection grant, even though, fewer than 5% of evictions result in homelessness out of all the evictions that get filed. It's a small percentage that actually end up in our homeless system, but it is still a percentage. And as a homeless services advisory committee, we don't want people losing housing to begin with, regardless if you become homeless or not.
Sure. So thanks for that context. I think it's helpful. I'm just curious about if the deadline is the 20th, we would maybe know by our meeting we need a letter, and then that would add more time to our agenda.
We would, if we needed to add, if we need a letter, I would suggest we would bump coordinated entry evaluation to put the letter piece in there, and we'll do our best. I'm not sure that it's going to be required.
Okay, sure.
And there's also no guarantee that we're going to win this. It's, a nationwide competition. And I think there's $40 million available across the country. So,
Right, sure. I think I just want to be sensitive to the like last minute things that come to HSAC. and
absolutely.
approvals. And so just thinking about like, even if there's like a one pager that can be shared before the meeting,
That would be the goal.
have some context to the request. I think that would just help people feel like they're making a more informed decision.
Yes. And we're currently writing that one pager now because it's required as part of our application.
Okay.
So that should be done. I want to say by the end of this week, but this is the end of the week. So if it's not done by the end of today, it'll probably be done by Monday or Tuesday next week.
Okay, great.
We
I
can
feel like
always-
that sets us up well in the case that it needs to come to HSAC.
Yep. Yeah, we would definitely get that out ahead of time.
Great. And then I just checked on my calendar. I have time with Ebony next Friday. So my plan is to pass the meeting over to Ebony after the transition of chair, but we'll communicate with her what we're saying around the coordinate entry evaluation piece, that if we're running short on time, and folks need more time for the COC NOFO, that we discuss this during our exec. Or the letter if that comes up. But the letter, if the letter comes in, that's something we have to cover.
Yeah.
So Colin, if you can just update both me and Ebony on that,
Absolutely.
that'd be helpful.
Yep. Yeah, as we are working through all the language and what's needed, there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of follow-up meetings and discussions that need to be had to work out some details.
Yeah. It is exciting though.
Yeah.
You just shared also that it's in the chat. Yep.
See how it plays out.
Great.
All right, so we've got an agenda.
Yeah, and I think that's the last item on our agenda for today. So I'll open the meeting, run through the first three items, and then it'll transition over to Ebony, and then Ebony will take it from there. And then I think Colin, maybe Ebony has set up also time with you before the next meeting, but if there's anything that comes up in our conversation on the 9th, we'll loop you into that since she's not here today.
Yeah.
So I know most of this agenda are items that she will be carrying forward.
You're meeting with Ebony on the 9th.
Yes.
What time?
Let me see. I can't remember if we added you to this already. I just was looking up. 10 o'clock, 10 to 10:30.
If you want, you can send me the invite and then just let me know later if you want me to jump in.
Sure, I'll send it to you.
And that way I don't have to join, but if you and Ebony talk, it may be easier to have one meeting than two.
Yeah, sure. And my thought was just to like talk about the transition meeting at the time we set this up. Realized she couldn't make it today, so I'll update her on today's meeting as well. All right, send it over.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for the good of the group before we hop off? Any announcements? Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
And I second.
Great, thanks everybody. We're ending. It's 10:51.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.